finally, my number one.
Bum, bum, bum.
So this is Blood Mountain by Mastodon. Like, this is when we first said about like doing album covers, this immediately was my number one. Like, I knew straight away I was picking this as number one. Again, it sounds how it looks. That is, to me, like, you mentioned like kind of prog album covers. That to me is like modern prog in a nutshell. Yeah. That kind of weird metal informed, kind of slightly medieval looking like painting and stuff with like this weird psychedelic shit on the side. 2006 album. I might go as far to say that it's their best album.
Okay.
Not necessarily because it's got the best songs, which is a weird thing to say, but because I think this is the purest form of Mastodon they've ever had.
What's this sound? I've never heard of it.
This album in particular, like nowadays, you would definitely just call them prog rock or hard rock. When they first started in like 2000, like they came up in like the Atlanta, Georgia area, and there was a lot of like kind of like metalcore of that kind of era. The first run of metalcore where you had like all these like hardcore punk bands that were getting slightly more technical, like Botch and Converge and stuff like that. And their early stuff kind of has that sort of sound to it. It's really heavy, really aggressive. This has that sound, but they've kind of stepped back a little bit. There's a bit more of like that kind of proggy thoughtfulness to it. There's not every single song is like 1,000 miles a minute. And this is, to me, that kind of transitional period between what they had with their first couple of albums, which still had prog elements, but to me were like metalcore albums in that kind of in the purest sense. This has elements of what they would then go on to do. Like the album after this, Crack the Sky, that is true prog. Like there's only 7 tracks, and you know if there's an album with 7 tracks and it's an album, it's prog. This is 12 tracks, which like I think is a perfect amount of songs to have, while also maintaining like a good amount of length. And yeah, as I said, this is them distilled into what Mastodon is. You've got that sort of slightly countrified kind of sound with the guitar playing. Like there's a lot of weird kind of plicky licks that you would get from like acoustic players, but they're playing it on like really heavily distorted guitars, super aggressive bass tones. Bron Daler, the drummer, you can really hear the Phil Collins influence on his playing on this album. I know a lot of people, like, when they think of Phil Collins, they think of, like, stuff that he did in terms of Another Day in Paradise and In the Air Tonight. But if you listen to like, the early Genesis stuff, like Foxtrot, for example, the drumming that he's done on that, you can hear that same approach to drumming on here. And that you can hear like where they're kind of drawing all of their prog influences for themselves in. Standout tracks on here, Sleeping Giant. Sleeping Giant is like a really cool kind of stonery sort of track. Starts off just like sort of acoustic all the way through, and then about a minute and a half in, there's this like guitar line with a load of delay and distortion on it, and really simple line, but honestly, it kind of expands the song in a huge way. Other than that, probably Colony of Birchmen is the song that people would know most off of that. That was kind of the main single from the album. Probably the weakest track on the album, to be honest. But still solid. Circle of Sasquatch and Blade Catcher. Blade Catcher is near enough an instrumental. There are vocals on it, but they are not. You cannot understand what they're saying. Like I think it's been, first of all, run through several effects, and second of all, they weren't saying real words in the first place.
Right.
So we'll call that an instrumental. That's some of their best like guitar work on it, on an album for sure. Like really intricate pieces on there, and then probably like Hand of Stone, I would say, is another standout track. That riff at the beginning I could listen to time and time again. I almost wish they just had a song that was just like 5 minutes of that riff and nothing else. But yeah, as I said, kind of...
It's good artwork, I do like that.
Solid sort of representation of what they were and what they became, and it is Mastodon distilled into a single album with plenty of tracks to enjoy. So you're not, if you get like a 5 or a 6 track prog album and you don't like any of the songs, then you kind of shit out of luck. But at least with this, there's 12 songs, you're probably going to like at least a couple of them, you know. And yeah, the artwork itself, I love that kind of like weird Wendigo kind of vibe to it. That sort of just such an odd, creepy looking cover. But yeah, fantastic. There we are. Oh, and we'll also mention as well, first you've got the liner notes, which just a simple sheet, but very cool artwork there as well. And it is, again, coloured vinyl.
That's nice
This
as well.
one, this like slime green.
Slime green.
Love that. Look at that. Absolutely stunning.
That is pretty good.
It's a weird colour to pick, because I wouldn't have... Like, the album itself, first of all, the cover is red and blue. But yeah, it kind of fits.
Yeah,
It kind of fits that like
fits,
weird,
'cause
aggressive
there's no green
kind of
on that
sound.
at all, other than that.
Yeah. Yeah, love it.
Brilliant.
So yeah, there we are. That is my top 10 of my favourite record covers. There we are.
Brilliant. Some nice sleeves there. So wait till my top 10, which should be coming in another episode. So thank you very much for listening and checking out Mark's favourite top 10 album sleeves.